Hi yogis, and welcome to today's practice. I have a really gentle, soft, and slow practice for us. We'll stay mostly close to the ground. We will get up for a little bit, but we are just going to find some real space in the postures today and notice what it feels like when we slow down our yoga practice. What benefits can we get from it, how we feel, and just check in with ourselves. We will need a few props for today. I have a blanket handy. So any blanket that you have at home works, doesn't have to be a yoga blanket. I also have a bolster. So any firm pillow that you might have, you might even want to grab a couple of them so that we can get a little bit more height whenever you need to. And I also have a block handy. If you don't have a block at home, any big, thick, sturdy book will do for today's practice. And we're actually going to start our practice with our bolster or with our pillows. And so coming into a wide-legged forward fold or wide-legged child's pose, we'll bring our bolster or our pillows in between the legs, in between the thighs, and then we'll just slowly lower down onto the bolster, bringing the cheek, it doesn't matter which one, onto the pillow or onto the bolster. If you need a little more height, you can stack more pillows, bring the blanket, even use the block. If you need some height on your hips, you can also use a block or a book behind your hips. And we'll just settle into this supported child's pose here. And I'll let you know when you will want to switch the cheeks. So just beginning to deepen the breath. And notice how we're feeling here. Really releasing into this posture. You chose a soft and slow, gentle class for a reason today. So let that reason and that purpose and that why help you to stay here in this moment as we relax. Often in our yoga practice, we want to move on to the next posture as quickly as we can. And that's not even just true in our yoga practice, it's in our day-to-day lives. Always rushing to the next thing. You can switch cheeks at this point. And so we can use our yoga practice, this slow and gentle yoga practice, as a way to build up our ability to stop this sort of jumping from thing to thing to thing. And from just focusing and being present and savoring what we are doing in this moment. As you feel ready, you can begin to press yourself up. And we can put the bolster off to the side now. And we'll rise up onto our hands and knees under the hips, wrists under the shoulders, fingers spread wide. And just move through some gentle cat-cows. These don't have to be big movements. They don't have to be fast movements. So dropping the belly, lifting the chest and chin as we come into cow pose. Rounding the back, tucking the chin in towards the chest as we come into cat pose. We might even circle the hips here. Finding whatever movement feels good. Going slowly. Noticing where our thoughts are, where our breath is. We'll come back to a neutral spine. And then grounding down through the left hand. Inhaling the right arm up. And exhale, threading the right arm through the left. Bringing the shoulder and the cheek and the temple onto the floor as we thread the needle. Perhaps we bring the left hand onto the shoulder or onto the low back, opening up that left shoulder a little bit more. Slow down, find the breath, resist the urge to move quickly. Exhale, releasing the left hand down onto the mat. Inhale, right arm rises up overhead. Exhale, right hand comes down. Inhale, left arm rises. Exhale, threading the left hand through the right arm, bringing the shoulder and the cheek or the temple onto the mat. Noticing where our thoughts are wandering and drawing them back in to only what's happening into the four corners of our mat, right? Focus is on the mat. Inhale as we press back up. Left arm rises up overhead. Exhale, left arm comes down. Now is a good time to grab our blanket, and we'll actually spread it pretty wide so it even comes off of the mat here. And we're going to bring the feet out pretty wide and begin to bring the sides of the feet down. We're going to come into frog pose. And so our knees will begin to slide out onto the blanket as we drop the hips down. Any amount feels good. And if this feels like too much, you can even just come into a really deep child's pose. So bringing the big toes together and dropping the belly just as we did in the beginning, coming into a deep child's pose, or staying here in this frog pose. You can be up on the hands. You can drop down onto the forearms. And the knees are really spread out any amount that feels good. Whatever feels good. They may even slide off the blankets. Continuing to lower. We're going to be here for a while. So you might get to a point and you say, oh, that's too much. And you can back out of it. You don't have to stay there. We'll take 5 breath cycles here. Noticing that inner monologue, noticing what's happening in our body. If you're on your forearms, pressing back up onto the hands, and then gently bringing the knees back in to center. Same thing if you were in child's pose, bringing the knees back in. And you can remove the blanket and put it off to the side. And then bringing the hands out in front, spreading the fingers out, curling the toes under and lifting up as we come into our first down dog, just a gentle down dog. Maybe we find a little bit of movement here, maybe we don't. On your next inhale, stepping the feet forward to the top of the mat as we come into a forward fold. And perhaps grabbing opposite elbows and just letting gravity do the work here. Perhaps we sway side to side. Dropping the hands onto the mat. Inhale, hands to shins, flat back, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, ground down through the feet as you rise up, arms up overhead. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Let's find a really strong foundation here. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Planting the right fingertips down, straightening the left leg, bending into that right leg, and lifting the left arm up as we twist. Beautiful. Feels good. Exhale. Left fingertips come down. Right leg straightens. Left knee bends. Right arm rises as we twist to the other side. Exhale. Right arm releases. Planting the hands down, stepping back into downward facing dog, just for a beat, and then lowering the knees and pressing back into child's pose. Resisting the urge to want to move and keep going. Just enjoying and savoring each moment in the pose. Inhale, rising up onto hands and knees. We'll bring the left foot forward on the outside of the left hand as we come into lizard pose. So we're still maintaining this alignment of the knee over the ankle. The toes can be out a little bit. You can be up here on the fingertips. You can lower down onto the forearms. You can even find a twist by planting the right hand down and pushing that left knee out a little bit. Whatever feels good. Holding here, really getting into the hip, dropping the hips down. Using our breath to deepen, so finding length on our inhales and sinking deeper on the exhale. Bringing the left foot in between the hands, coming into a low lunge. Fingertips are still on the ground. And then sending the hips back as we come into half splits. So we can keep a real generous bend in the knee and lifting the chest just as we would in like a cobra or in our cow pose. Holding here. Walking the fingertips forward, knee bends, and then bringing the left knee back to meet the right. Pressing back, child's pose. Inhale, rising up onto hands and knees. Right foot comes on the outside of the right hand. We're coming into lizard on the other side. And again, finding whatever variation feels good to us. If we feel like our wrists need a little break, we can even come up onto our fists. That will take some tension off of the wrist because we are holding here, moving slowly. And the longer we hold these poses, we often discover some new things about our body. Right? When we move quickly, as we often do in a vinyasa class where we flow from one posture to the next, sometimes even one posture per breath, we often miss some cues from our body. And so when we slow it down, it really gives us an opportunity to check in and say, hey, this is new. This is different. I didn't know this about my body. So it's a really good opportunity to connect in a really different way. When you feel ready, bringing the right foot in between the hands, sending the hips back, straightening the leg, flexing the foot, coming into half splits on the other side, keeping the chest open. I really love to have a big, generous bend in the knees here. This is how I like to do my half splits. It feels good. I find length in the spine. I also have very tight hamstrings, so. Take 2 more breaths here. Walking the fingertips forward, bending the knee, coming into that low lunge, bringing the right knee back to meet the left, and then coming onto our seat. We'll bring the soles of our feet together and drop the knees out to the side. And inhale, opening up through the chest. And exhale, folding forward. And again, we're going to hold here for a while. So find that point where you feel like you can stay and really enjoy this stretch. And again, if you find that you're wondering when we're moving on to the next, draw it back in. Go back to that why. Why you wanted a slow practice today. Why you wanted a soft practice. Use that breath as an anchor to help you feel everything in these poses. Gently inhaling as we rise up. Lifting the knees up to center, bringing the feet as wide as the mat. We're going to come onto our backs, but you'll want to have your block handy at this point. But before we do that, we're going to reach forward with our hands and exhale slowly, one vertebrae at a time as you release back down onto the mat. Really going as slow as you possibly can and really noticing at what point do you start to stick or does it want to move a little bit faster? And can you control that? Can you go slower even when you want to go fast? And slowly releasing down onto the mat. We'll grab our block, and I like to have it on this really low setting, bringing our feet hip distance apart, knees are hip distance apart, heels are in towards the glutes, and we'll lift the hips and placing the block on the base of the spine, coming into our supported bridge. You might find that you want a little more height, and so you can change the setting of that block so you get that height that you're looking for. Play around with it. Find the place where it feels good. Maintaining that alignment of the knees and the hips. And just relaxing into this pose. Relaxing the shoulders, the fingertips. Relaxing the muscles of the face. Making sure we have length in the back of the spine, in the back of the neck. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And then removing the block from underneath our back, and then hugging our knees into the chest, and then extending them out long as we come into our final posture, Shavasana, final pose of rest and relaxation. And I encourage you to stay here in Shavasana for as long as you can today. Allowing your body to fully relax and rest. Appreciating the slow movement and perhaps using this as a reminder to move more slowly throughout your day, more intentionally when you're off your mat. So again, stay here as long as you can. Thank you for practicing with me. The light in me honors and respects the light in you. Namaste.